This is the latest from Lamborghini. If you just stay focused on the details, you could easily mistake it for just another supercar. But this one isn't even a car. It's the 2019 Urus, the first modern supersport utility vehicle from that little car maker based in Sant'Agata, Bolognese, Italy. Before we really get into this, I want to thank Bellevue Lamborghini for loaning us this particular car. We didn't get much time with the press vehicle when it was in town, and they stepped up and provided us the keys to one of their own. So we're going to go ahead and start with one of the most controversial aspects of this Lamborghini, the parts it shares with other Volkswagen Audi Group vehicles. The engine is borrowed from a Porsche Panamera. The chassis is based on what you would find underpinning the new Bentley Bentayga. And the design? Well, yeah, that's all Lamborghini, as is almost everything else. Parts sharing isn't necessarily bad if it's done right. And here, Lamborghini used family to help engineer the big expensive stuff, so they could spend time and money on other parts of the car. It also helps them bring in the Urus at a rather affordable $200,000 for base trim here in the US. For a supercar, super sport utility vehicle, that's not really so bad. The model we're testing, of course, isn't a base trim. It is priced at around $260,000 with a number of options. Now, let's see what you get. The engine is a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8. It puts out 650 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. The turbos on this engine are exclusive to Lamborghini, as are a number of other parts attached to the mill. So don't expect this to drive or sound anything like a Panamera. It is a completely different beast. The engine is mated to an 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, again, exclusively built for Lamborghini. It has a front differential, torsion self-locking center diff, and an active torque vectoring diff in the rear. Torque splits 60% to the rear when cruising, with up to 87% going to the aft when necessary. This setup is rated at 0 to 62 in 3.6 seconds, with a top speed of 190 miles per hour. Impressive for a beast that weighs in at more than 5,000 pounds, including driver. Stopping duty is provided by 6 pots in the rear and a massive 10-piston caliper in the front. Yes, 10. It's insane. Trunk space is pretty good for a supercar, all things considered. With the second row up, you get 21.8 cubic feet. Fold it down, and you get 56.4 cubic feet. That is shockingly similar to what you get in a Volkswagen Golf. Just saying. The Urus also gives you some really nice touches, like these adjustable rails and a spare under the trunk. Interesting, that spare tire, it looks like it doesn't even use air. It's just this funky double donut thing. I don't even know what's going on there. The second row fits a full-size adult. You also get heated seats and full control over aircon. Our test row also had second row entertainment that allows you to stream through your mobile data plan, play music, or even look at maps. Up front, it is just as crazy as you might expect from Lamborghini. Just look at all these toggles and screens, angles, and Alcantara. Even with this low roofline, I still fit just fine at over 6 feet tall. Visibility, surprisingly good as well. Much better than what you would expect from a supercar, that's for sure. To get it started, flip this red cover and hit the button. Then, just listen to the throb of that twin turbocharged V8. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and let the car idle, stop talking, and let you take in some of the details of the Urus. Okay, that was nice. The interior is beautifully crafted. The materials, the design, it's honestly one of the best interiors I've seen. And the seats are amazing. They even have massage units built right in. But even with all the lush leathers and metals, my eyes were immediately drawn to the 3 screens that dominate the view. The first screen takes place of a traditional gauge cluster. This gives you all the current status of your vehicle. It also changes based on what driving mode you're in. We'll come back to that. The display is beautifully designed. It looks as good as anything you would find in a video game. Now, I'm actually meaning that as a compliment. There's also a heads-up display, which takes select gauge cluster info and puts it right in the driver's view. To the right is a navigation screen. This gives you much more than just navigation. You can completely control the vehicle setup, including driving modes, advanced safety options, control the stereo, as well as, of course, search for stuff. Google Maps are nicely integrated. Just write your destination on the third lower screen, and you can also type if you prefer. Honestly, the typing's much quicker than writing. The displays are bright, beautifully designed, and they do provide haptic feedback, giving your finger the impression that it's feeling the touch points, which is pretty cool. That lower screen also gives you instant access to your air conditioning, seat warmers, and coolers. Below that is the main controller for the Anima driving modes. First, you have Strada or Street. Then there's Sport, Corsa, which is a race mode. It opens up the exhaust for more noise, in addition to modifying the differential, suspension, and steering to be more responsive. Neve, part of my Italian, that's supposed to be snow. It cuts power for better grip in slippery conditions. And this one was also equipped with the optional Sabbia, sand, and Terra off-road modes. On the right, we can control the Ego modes. These cover the all-wheel drive configurations, the steering, and suspension settings. Basically, they're manual overrides similar to what you get in the Anima modes. The Urus also comes with air suspension. So not only does it adjust firmness based on your driving choice, it also raises and lowers the vehicle. The lowest setting gets you 6.2 inches of ground clearance. This also makes the Urus look more like a super sport wagon from a distance. Go all the way up and you have 9 inches of clearance, which is great for occasional soft road adventures. It is possible to take this vehicle off-roading, but it's not really built for that. First off, you'll likely be wearing summer tires on this thing and not off-road appropriate rubber. Also, it's not a Land Rover. It does have some cool off-road displays, but without locking differentials and crawl modes, you simply don't want to get too crazy off pavement. This is more for skiing in Aspen than crawling in Moab. The exhaust is active, so it's louder when you go into Corsa track mode. Which is honestly how a Lamborghini should always sound. But you probably don't want to drive around all day like this, since Corsa also disables all the active safety features, in addition to putting the Urus into the least aggressive traction control mode. And with 650 horsepower on tap, I would say it's easy to get into trouble on public streets. But when the open road does finally call, the Urus is ready to answer. Switching the drive mode from Strada to Corsa, the Urus hunkers down, dropping the suspension more than half an inch. The steering firms up a bit, and the exhaust ports open wide. Cutting through the corners, you can feel power channel through that rear differential. As the wheels wrapped in Pirelli P0s turn just slightly to give you four-wheel steering confidence, and the outer suspension stiffens to flatten out your apex. Yeah, the Urus is using quite a lot of technology to do what it does, but the payoff is a vehicle that is much faster and more nimble than it has any right to be. Hit the column-mounted shifter and the 8-speed automatic feeds you another gear. Eventually. To be honest, it is the most imprecise part of the Urus. A twin clutch would have been much better, even if it would have sacrificed a bit of streetability in the everyday school run. But I have to then remember, this is an SSUV with adaptive cruise control, collision mitigation, blind spot detection, and a rear camera. This is not a track machine, though it certainly does play the part well when it needs to. Lamborghini says the Urus gets a combined EPA rating of 19 miles to the gallon. It achieves this by deactivating several cylinders at low RPM. While filming, which is a lot of stop and go punctuated by quite a lot of full throttle, the car reported closer to 6 miles to the gallon. This SSUV is a blast to drive fast, and you'll certainly pay a penalty at the pump if you do. But with a car that looks like this, honestly, what do you expect? Driving a Urus, you do kind of feel like a rock star. albeit one that has hung up his guitar, started a family, and now lives off the dividends of his past hits. To a young, brash Aventador owner still burning the candles at both ends, that might sound like a fate worse than death. But it's not. It's really just the next stage of life. And I'm actually kind of pleased to see that Lamborghini is addressing this. It is hard to compare the Urus to anything else on the road. The closest thing out there is probably the Jeep Trackhawk. Who would have thought that here in 2018 we'd be comparing a Lamborghini to a Jeep? But there we are. Fact is, at 700 horsepower with the Hellcat engine and a nice track package, the Trackhawk is a marvel at speed. But it's also a third of the price of the Urus at $85,000. Fact is, you could get a Demon, a Trackhawk, and a Hellcat for less than an Urus. At least a nicely equipped Urus. But where the joy of the Urus is that it's a practical super sport utility, the joy of the Trackhawk is that it looks pretty much like a normal Grand Cherokee. You only know it's something amazing when you really open it up. Or you read the badge on the back. The Urus, it looks like it should get a ticket when it's parked. Even though they do compare favorably on paper, the Urus and the Trackhawk are actually worlds apart. So why did Lamborghini do it? Why did they build this thing? Well, fact is, Lamborghini, they needed a crossover. This keeps brand enthusiasts in the fold even when they need something practical. And even if you've never considered a Lamborghini before, I can certainly think of several worse ways to spend $250,000. The Italian car maker hopes to sell 3,500 of these every year, which would be a significant bump from last year's total sales of 3,800 units, effectively doubling their global sales. I expect that they'll sell every single one of them, because fact is, this is a totally unique driving experience. And some people really want that and have the money to make it happen. I want it. I don't have the money. Maybe next year. What would you buy for $200,000? Post a comment below. Also, be sure to like and share our videos. We love it when you do. Also, subscribe. For Driving Sports TV, I'm Ryan Douthit. We'll see you next time.